Family Life's Performing Arts Department was so excited about presenting the musical production of The Music Man in March. And we were very fortunate to get one weekend in before the COVID-19 pandemic kind of shut the show down. We had rescheduled it for the beginning of June, but because of the ongoing pandemic, that was not allowed to happen. And so the Performing Arts Department, as creative as they are, has decided to put together this video montage of Behind the Curtain. In fact, what you see behind me are some of the props and the scenes that were used for The Music Man. In this video presentation, you will hear interviews from our theater director, Rodney Coe, our worship and music arts director, Bob Dusick, who along with Mike Hyde worked very, very hard in putting all the music together. Lauren Norris, who was our choreographer, will also be heard from. And then the two main actors. We have Robbie Lindmark, who played Harold Hill, the main actor in this particular show, as well as Bethany McCarthy, who played the lead Marion. We want to say a special thank you to Tracy Woolsey for working and putting together all these interviews, and for our Creative Services Department for editing and putting together everything to make this presentation of Behind the Curtain.
Well, you got trouble, my friends. Right here, I say trouble right here in River City. Why, sure, I'm a billiard player, certainly mighty proud to say. I'm always mighty proud to say it. I consider that the hours I spend with a cue in my hand are gold. I hope you cultivate horse sense and a cool head and a keen eye. You ever take and try and give an ironclad lead to yourself from a three-railed billiard shot? But just as I say it takes judgment, brains, and maturity to score in a balk-line game, I say that any boob can take and shove a ball in a pocket. And I call that sloth the first big step on the road to the depths of Dagwood. Dare I say first, it's medicinal wine from a teaspoon, then beer from a bottle. And the next thing you know, your son is playing for money in a pinch mixer and listening to some big out-of-town Jasper hear him telling about horse race gambling. Not a wholesome trotting race, no, but a race where they set down right on the horse. Like to see some stuck-up jockey boy sitting on Dan Patch. Make your blood boil? Well, I should say. Now, friends, let me tell you what I mean. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets in a table. Pockets that mark the difference between a gentleman and a bum with a capital B, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
Well, The Music Man is considered one of those great classic musicals. What makes it so unique?
Oh, wow. Well, one, the music. There are so many earworms in this show. That's what I call them. There's so many songs that you walk out humming. Whether you want to or not, they stick with you. The other are the characters. They have managed, Meredith Willson somehow managed to take all these small town characters and just totally bring them to life on the page. And it's so well written that it doesn't matter the size of the theater, professional or non-professional, it's easy to have a good show.
Trying out Cubans, trying out tailor-mades like cigarette fiends, and bragging all about how they're gonna cover up their telltale breath with sensei.
One fine night, they leave the pool, heading for the dance at the armory, liberty men in scarlet blue, and ragtime. Shameless music that'll rag your son. Your daughter with the arms of a jungle animal instinct. Asteria, friends, the idle brains, the devil's playground trouble.
I'd like to say that too. The music is just absolutely phenomenal for this production, for the show. And also, it's what I call an old school musical. Mm-hmm. And that is, it really was written before we were relying on microphones. And I remember when I first started rehearsing with the cast, they were just complaining, man, these songs are too high. Well, they were high for a reason. They had to get above the band, even in the era when they didn't have microphones to help the people get above the band. Mm-hmm. And the band, the writing for the pit is just very, very well done. Mm-hmm. It doesn't rely at all on mixing from the soundboard or anything. In fact, the overture actually has instructions for the trombone section to stand up and play when we come to the 76 trombone stuff.
Wow.
And just all the way that he weaves the melodies throughout the entire score, I mean, it's just phenomenal. They keep on coming back. Even when you don't think you're hearing these songs, they're still playing along in the background, and they're just kind of moving the music, moving the story along. So, I mean, it's just a wonderful work of art.
Yeah, along with that, you know, one of the other elements is those themes you were talking about musically that continue to run through the show. man, there is so many heartfelt moments in this show that are thematic. That clearly he was a master at what he did. He was so good.
So what's involved with putting together a musical of this magnitude?
The preparation. There's so much prep.
Well,
So much
even
prep.
going
And
back-
there's so many scene changes.
But even going back before that, the audition is really something that's so amazingly important to a production when you're putting on something that's this big.
Yeah.
Trying to find and discover the people that can actually have the chops to pull off the characters and pull off the dance and pull off the vocals. And, how do you construct something like that? So it's a lot of working together, Rodney, you and I working together, working with our choreographer, Lauren, and just, really strategically planning how to get from point A to point B, from that audition all the way to the stage.
And straight up just praying for a quartet.
Yes, definitely.
There was so much prayer going into this, like, Lord, give us a quartet. Because if we don't have a quartet, we don't have a show. And the Lord provided a quartet.
76 trombones led the big parade, with 110 cornets close at hand. They were followed by rows and rows of the finest virtuosos, the cream of every famous band. 76 trombones caught the morning sun, with 110 cornets right behind. There were more than 1,000 reeds spring up like weaves. There were horns of every shape and kind. There were copper-bottomed timpani and horse platoons, thundering, thundering all along the way. Double bell euphoniums and big bassoons, each bassoon having his big band say. There were 50 mounted cannon in the battery, thundering, thundering louder than before. Clarinets of every size and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score.
There were bells on the hill, but I never heard them ringing. No, I never heard them at all, till there was you.
One of the things that I realized with this role this time around was, I'm not in high school anymore, so I don't have to be acting like a grown man, because what is that act? But Harold is probably my age. And so I remember talking to you about that, like, wait a minute, it clicked to me when we were rehearsing the one scene that this is it. This is what would I act like if I was trying to run around and get, fool people and get them to buy instruments and be that guy that's like, hey, try this, try that. And that to me was a new revelation. And I really liked how I was able to play off of your character, because she was so unlike anything that Harold had encountered before. And I just love the strength that you pulled from her, because it really stopped Harold in his tracks. And so any of the moments that we have together, that especially toward the beginning where you kind of just like cut me off, those to me I feel like were really strong, because my character was coming in like, hey, and you were like, nope, not today. I'm trying to think of the one that Mr. Hill.
Mr. Hill, refusing to call him Professor Hill.
I'm trying to get you to be like, oh no, it's Professor. Like, not to me.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was fun to do those back and forth, because here's this guy and this girl who's just not having it. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, that was fun. I liked seeing the evolution of the porch scene, because it's a really long scene and there's a lot of words and dialogue, and from like when we started and we were like, I don't know how to make this like not awkward, and then by the end the way that it flowed was just really good. is called Goodnight My Someone, and it has a special place in my heart because it's actually a song that I sing to my 2 daughters at night before they go to bed every night, and I've sung it to them for years before I even got to do this show, so it was already special to me before I got to be the role of Marian, and then it just had a special place to connect with in my heart when I got to do it in the show.
Good night, my someone. Good night, my love. Sleep tight, my someone. Sleep tight, my love. Our star is shining, its brightest light. For good night, my love. For good night. Sweet dreams be yours, dear, if dreams there be. Sweet dreams to carry you close to me. I wish they may, and I wish they might. Now good night, my someone. Good night. True love can be whispered from heart to heart. When lovers are parted, they say, but I must depend on a wish and a star as long as my heart doesn't know who you are. Sweet dreams be yours, dear, if dreams there be. Sweet dreams to carry you close to me. I wish they may, and I wish they might. Now good night, my someone. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Talk to us about the cast. People from all walks of life. Some drove many miles.
Yeah, they did. Well, we were incredibly blessed with this cast. So much talent, so much hard work, and yeah, all you can say is, y'all worked your tails off. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much. They're so good. It was so fun, and that's actually one of the main things that stood out to me. There was so much joy in this rehearsal process. There was so much silliness. I loved it. It was great. And in the midst of a lot of hard work, like this show getting put up, normally hours of rehearsal for a show, you want a certain amount. We were around 30 under what you should have for a musical. And Music Man's a big old show. So the prep work on the front end was a big part of it, but the huge part of it was the execution, what you guys brought, what the cast brought. It's great.
What else to say? It was just a truly amazing cast, and the way they supported each other, and the way they loved on each other, and the way they just, as you said, just brought such joy into this whole production. I mean, it would just bless me every time coming to a rehearsal, whether it was a musical rehearsal, whether we were going to tech rehearsals. many shows I've been nervous, frustrated, and here it was just like walking into a breath of fresh air. And that's because of just the heart and the spirit and the quality of the cast that God actually really put together here.
Madam Librarian, what can I do, my dear, to catch your ear? I love you madly, madly, Madam Librarian. Marion, heaven help us if the library caught on fire and the volunteer hose brigademan had to whisper the news to Marion. Madam Librarian, what can I do?
With us now, we have Lauren Norris joining us. She is the choreographer for The Music Man. Thanks for joining us, Lauren.
Oh, you're so welcome.
The Music Man is a dance-heavy show. How did you go about teaching all those dances to the cast?
Well, first we had a really amazing cast that worked really, really, really hard. We had a lot of practices. We also did a lot of videos for this round, and I think that made the whole show stronger because people could go back and look at the videos.
You're also the choreographer of the show. Where do you get your ideas, Lauren? What inspires you?
So first, when we pick a show, I do a lot of research as far as the time period because I really want it to be as real as I can. And then I also really talk to the director and say, okay, what's your vision? What way do you want to take this? And then I end up watching the original, whatever the original, especially for a classic, like I need the root of the truth of this is what it is, you know, and so I'll watch that a bunch of times and then pick out the iconic things that stand out and then watch other people's ideas, but I don't copy people's ideas because it just makes me feel weird. So I like to make it original and make Family Life's a new spin on it.
Lauren, how do you go about making or creating all the movements for a dance within the show?
I listen to the music a ton of times, over and over and over again. I work with the director and sometimes we'll block a scene and that's really helpful. Sometimes they'll give me just a list of what they want and so I can then just go at it that way. But also just picturing it in my head, like I'll just play it over and over and over again, whatever the song is.
Lauren, what is your favorite moment from the musical?
Well, I think my favorite moment was when we did the library scene and everybody had this giant line, and so I loved in watching The Music Man that there was this iconic part where always Harold would start with his foot and he would move his foot and then he'd have 3 guys that would join him. So what I wanted to do with this one is have a giant line, and so we had all the dancers line up and do it, and that was my favorite part in the show because there was just this unity and this, I just loved it.
Yeah, we had one cast member who was newer specifically to Family Life things, who had come to see the Christmas show, and someone in the Christmas show said, "You should come try out," and he did. And he was a really great dancer and just a neat guy. And I remember he would just say, like, "I don't know, it's just something just seems different about doing shows here." And that was neat to hear from somebody who hadn't experienced it. I think those of us that have done a couple are biased, like, but he was brand new, and I really think what he sensed was Christ being the central part of each of our lives and each of our goals here in doing this thing together, not just, oh, I'm a star, so I don't have time for you, or I'm better than you, or I feel like the competitive nature isn't there.
Yeah, and I think like theater in general, it gives you something to that you're all doing together, and you all have the same goal.
Right.
And then when you're performing in front of an audience, it's actually like my favorite part about theater, if I'm in the audience or in a show, is that a whole room full of people are experiencing the same thing and feeling the same things at the same time.
Right.
And as an actor or a director, as part of the show, you have like a part in guiding how somebody is feeling, or like you're taking them on a journey.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And I think with Family Life or with Christian theater specifically, the goal that you all have, which is true of any theater, but when it's Christian theater, it's like Jesus is the goal and sharing that message is the goal. And so it just makes it that much more powerful when you're taking someone on a journey and you're leading them to Jesus. It just takes it that much further.
This next piece is really fun because it's a mishmash of two songs from the show. One song, 76 Trombones, that my character sings, and another song that your character sings, Goodnight My Someone, that one being very tender, this one being very brash and bold and loud. And we kind of toss the melodies back and forth, which is cool because now we're starting to see Harold's tender side as he sings your song, and we're starting to see Marion's brash, loud side as you start to sing 76 Trombones. And this is really the moment where Harold realizes this woman is in love with me and I'm in love with her too. With 110 cornets played the air, then I modestly took my place as the one and only bass, and I oompad up and down the square.
Good night, my someone. Good night, my love.
With 110 cornets right behind.
Our star is shining, its brightest light.
There were horns of every shape and